lastly, if both of these does not satisfy your needs, then we can look at the said person's combat ability and achievement. Now, initially, I did not want to do this because I got nothing against Haiyang in person. I've never met him. I mean, I've heard about certain things that he did in the past, with this on the Baidu forum and the martial art community in China, and a bunch of people that I know doesn't like him. But I have nothing against him personally, so I didn't really want to do this. However, his students and fanboys really did a disservice to him by constantly kicking up drama, bringing up nonsense, and being very disrespectful. Now, of course, in my original video, some people considered the joke that Eric made to be disrespectful. And yes, I do agree that joke wasn't 100% appropriate, but it is not on the same level as the type of things Haiyang's students and fanboys later on said towards me and my channel, and even some of my friends. So over here you can see some screen grabs of said fanboys slash students who constantly say insult and nasty things about me and my friend on Haiyang's own Xingyi group on Facebook. Now, of course, he's a retard and I don't really care what he says, but what does make me slightly upset is the fact that this is Haiyang's own group. He is the founder and the admin, and he did nothing to tell this guy that what he did is not right. I mean, obviously later on in that whole post, he did come out and say that, oh, you know, I don't want to be dragged into any drama, and you know, like whatever you said don't represent me. But he didn't come out and just say to the guy straight like, hey man, thanks for supporting, but you know, don't say those things to those people because that's not nice. It's not what a well-mannered person should do, and not something that I should tolerate in my forum. So that is one of the reasons why I decided to now talk about Haiyang's personal combat achievement or the lack thereof. Another reason for this is because in all his posts, he always say something internal for combat purpose, something internal for combat purpose. So it seemed to me that he's using combat to be his main selling point. And for anyone that constantly talk about teaching people how to combat, it is important and paramount to look at then how skilled is he in terms of combat and what he actually have achieved in the realm of combat. Now, of course, I know whenever I mention this, his fanboy can then question my personal combat achievement. But here's the thing. Firstly, I am not a self-proclaimed master. Secondly, I'm not contradicting any classical text from any Chinese martial arts style, right? If I'm saying follow the classical text, follow the founders and the predecessors of certain style, then I'm not in a position to be questioned. However, when someone comes out and says that, you know, the classical text is misinterpreted, the Xingyi community in China is wrong, but his viewpoint is right, then he has to stand out and prove why he is right. And if you really want to talk about combat experience and achievement and whatnot, sure, I don't have any, but at least I did step into the arena and fought one of Xu Xiaodong's teammates from the Shizhahai Sanda school. And if you don't know who Xu Xiaodong is, you probably are living under a rock. He's probably the most famous martial art figure in China for the past few years due to his famous 9-second knockout on the fake Taiji master Wei Lei, and then boosted him into the tip of internet fame. I met him back in 2003 during the first Chinese MMA exchange event. And during that event, I stepped up in the arena and fought Xu Xiaodong's teammate, a professional trained stand-up athlete from one of the most prestigious sport academy in China, the Beijing Shizhahai Sport Academy. Naturally, I lost, but at least I stepped in the ring and I fought somebody professional, which is more than I can say for Haiyang and his followers, who as far as I know have never stepped into the arena or the ring against a professionally trained stand-up athlete. But of course, losing to a stand-up athlete doesn't say much about my personal combat skill, but what does say is that I do put my fist where my mouth's at. I don't just preach combat, I actually go out and I do fight people. And it's pretty natural for me at the time to lose against a professional trained person because I'm not professionally trained. So unless Haiyang or any of his disciples has actually beaten a professionally trained standard athlete from China, they actually have no right to criticize my credential when it comes to fighting. And in case you don't believe me, here's a photo that was taken during the fight. The one in orange shirt, that's me. The guy that's topless, that's the professional standard athlete. In the back, you actually see a younger version of Xu Xiaodong basically observing the fight and giving out instructions to his teammates. On top of that, while I've never pretended to be a great fighter or even a master of whatever style, I have never in my life dodged a fight. You cannot find a single person in the entire martial community, whether it's China or abroad, that can come out and say that on this day and date that I'm supposed to do a fight but I didn't go. And I've never had any situation where I argue with somebody over social media, they refuse to show up when I settle with their fist, as long as it is a place that I can be physically at, meaning in the same country. But I cannot say the same for somebody else here. I know this whole thing now starting to look like it's getting personal, and let me just say that this was not my intention. Not that I think what I'm doing now is wrong, but it only got this far because of those super annoying fanboys who constantly pestering me with mean and insulting stuff and retarded arguments that don't even stand logically. So all the fanboys watching this, do know that I'm only posting this video because of you guys. And therefore I hope you do enjoy this video.
Hey, what are you doing?
Hi, I come to say hello.
Hi, what are you doing?
I'm filming.
Film me?
Yes.
Come in.
Thank you.
This I want to feel something. Be careful, this is a private place. It's not public, huh?
Yeah?
What do you want to do?
You're home.
What do you want to do?
I came to propose a technical exchange.
Between
Friendly.
you and me?
Yes.
Now?
When you want.
No, do it now.
Okay.
Give on. Let's everyone want to fight with me. Right? Do what you want.
It's a friendly sparring match.
Yeah, do what you want.
What?
Do what you want now.
Do what I want?
Yeah, do it.
Yes, we do it. I have to sign something before.
Say what? Let me see.
It's a contract. You say this, we're not responsible and an injury or something.
You take it first. You want to fight, then fight. What do you need? What do you
Stay
need?
back.
You see? Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Right?
You need to stay back.
See that what? You can't run it. Oh!
This is a match.
It's 1 against 1.
I told you to stay back.
Okay.
And keep your distance. Keep your distance.
Raymond! Call police first!
Keep your distance.
See? I told you.
So I don't know the original author of this video, so therefore I can't really verify exactly what happened in the video, but the video does provide a pretty clear description. It may be true, it may be half true, maybe it's not completely true, but unless you have physical evidence to dispute this, I'm gonna in the meantime go with what this video's description is suggesting, which is that Haiyang or somebody from his group were being pretty unfriendly to another group of Kung Fu practitioners over the internet, which is something that I can't totally believe in. because he does that even on Baidu Tieba, one of China's biggest internet forum, specifically in the Xingyi and Bagua section. He's made quite a lot of enemies on that forum by being rude and unfriendly to people. So I do personally believe what the original author of this video is claiming to be the cause of this incident. So from what we can see from the video, this other, I believe is a Wing Chun school, there were some of the students were upset with how Haiyang treated them over the internet and then decided to take up his offer for a challenge. And notice here that it's not the school issued a challenge, it's Haiyang who actually issued the challenge and they answering the challenge. And this is important, right? Because this indicates who started this whole event. And upon approaching to the school, we can see pretty clearly that Haiyang was having a very unfriendly attitude.
Be careful, this is a private place. It's not a public, huh?
Yeah?
What do you want to do?
You're home.
What do you want to do?
I came to propose a technical exchange.
Between you and me?
Yes.
Now?
When you want.
No, do it now.
Okay.
Give up. Let's everyone want to fight with me. Right? Do what you want.
It's a friendly sparring match.
Yeah, do what you want.
What?
Do what you want now.
And when the Wing Chun guys brought up an agreement that he wants him to sign before they do the fight, he just tore it up.
Sign what? Let me see.
It's a contract. You say this, we're not responsible and an injury or something.
You take it first.
Now I personally find that to be quite rude, and if I was the person that was in the incident, I would probably be pretty offended.
You want to fight, then fight. What do you need?
Stay back.
You see? Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Right?
You need to stay back.
Sit back, what? You can't run.
And after he tore up the agreement, then he started to act very aggressive and, excuse my language, but almost a bit like an asshole. So it's like he's almost pushing the guy in a very rude way. That is not how a master or even just a practitioner should conduct a challenge. Even if you are offended or upset that someone came to challenge you, you need to still treat them with respect. Let your hand, technique and training do the talking, not your attitude. And furthermore, right, keep in mind, it was Haiyang who issued them the challenge, not the other way around. So he shouldn't even have any reason to be upset that someone else is answering his offer. If you don't like being challenged, don't make the offer. But of course, he want to feel good and look cool and impress people on the internet, which is why he issued the challenge. He probably didn't think someone else was going to actually answer his offer. And that's probably why he's acting upset and aggressive, hoping that his aggression is going to scare the guy and discourage him from actually doing the challenge.
This is a match.
It's 1 against 1.
I told you to stay back.
Okay.
And keep your distance.
And then the screen kind of went black, and then once the camera comes back, we can basically see that Haiyang lost his glasses, and that he's got a pretty big red mark on his face. So naturally, we can safely assume that he probably got punched or slapped during the blackout period. Now, some of his fans has attempted to argue that the guy sucker punched him. Well, but you know what? Your idol is the one that said we fight now, right? He's the one who said it. If he's saying we fight now, then the other guy isn't sucker punching him. If he agreed to set a time or regulation and have somebody, a referee, to say start, then yes. And then if the other guy punched him before everything was ready, that's sucker punching. But the fact that he already stated to the other guy in his face that we fight now, you can't blame the other guy for punching him. You can only blame him for not being able to neutralize that punch or slap or whatever caused that red mark on his face. Another thing that his supporters try to argue is that why is the screen black out? We can't see what happened. We don't know what happened, right? If the other guy did win the exchange, why doesn't he include that part of the footage? Well, there's a very simple explanation to that, because they don't want to be legally liable for any damage or any lawsuit. You see, if the original author of this video included a part where he slapped Haiyang or punched him or whatnot, there is a chance that Haiyang then could take that footage as evidence and then launch a lawsuit against the guy who punched him or slapped him. So therefore, anyone with a right mind would not upload evidence that will be self-incriminating, which is why, quite understandably, the guy cut out the portion where he actually slapped or punched Haiyang. Another thing worth taking note here is when the camera comes back online again, you hear one of those Wing Chun guys shouting, "This is one-on-one." That would give us enough reason to believe that during that whole event, Haiyang's student was trying to gang up on these Wing Chun guys. And that shows really poor mannerism from Haiyang's school. Respecting a one-on-one duel should be one of the basic etiquettes taught in any Chinese martial arts school. In fact, it should even be common decency among decent people. The fact that his student is willing to gang up on people with a superior number just goes to show you how unreasonable they are. And as the saying goes, like father like son, and in this case like master like student, it kind of gives you a hint, what not direct evidence, but it gives you a hint of what kind of culture and behavior that whole group of people possess. It also gives you a pretty good idea of who had the upper hand during that blacked out screen exchange. And if this is not enough reason to convince you, then just look at his reaction and response after the video came back online.
Remand! Call police first!
So firstly, you see the red mark on his face, but nothing on the other guy's face, which means he didn't manage to hit the other guy back. That first thing. And secondly, from how upset he is, and the fact that he then immediately tells his student to call the police. That pretty much already spells out for you, without a doubt, who got the upper hand in that exchange during the blackout in the video. And that's also the part that surprises me the most. You see, when the guy first approached, Haiyang was acting like an alpha male. He tore up the paper, then he went into the guy's face, said, "We fight now, we fight now." And then the moment he got slapped in the face, he said, "Oh man, come on, call the police, call the police." I mean, what the heck is that? Is that even the right attitude of a martial art practitioner? Now, of course, I am a law-abiding citizen, so I do admit that if you have a public class and someone came to disrupt your class, it is within your right to call the police. However, if that's the case, you should have called the police from the start, instead of tearing up the paper, looking cool, looking intimidating, and then going to the guy's face. And if you did all of that, then accept the challenge. And if you do accept the challenge, then don't call the police when you didn't win the challenge, right? You can't have a cake and eat too.
You're trying to have your cake and eat it too.
You gotta either stay in the law-abiding side or stay the true martial artist side. The fact that he acted all tough initially and then tell his student to call the police afterwards, it just kind of shows what kind of personality and character he actually has. And even though I have nothing against him in person, but based on this video, I cannot respect him as a Chinese martial art practitioner. I've been to many fights in my past. I've got pretty badly injured. I mean, you can see that my nose here is actually skewed. I've also chipped tooth. I've got a rib injury that was severe pain for a few months. And out of all these incidents, I've never once called the police when I got hurt or even tried to sue them for medical bill. Not because I couldn't, because those things happen in China. The law does protect me if I were to sue them, but it's bad practice. If you willingly engage in a duel or an exchange and you got hurt, that's on you. You have to be the big enough man to accept the consequences. Otherwise, don't stick your neck out for a challenge to begin with, and don't let your mouth run big on the internet. And among the martial art community in China, most of us look down on people who run their big mouth, stick their neck out, and then dodge a challenge, or they go to a challenge and when they got punched in the face, they try to soothe the other person. That's a very, very bad practice based on the Chinese martial art community's own agreed upon efficacy agreement. So ultimately, you have to kind of ask yourself, how can a person who claims to be a master of certain Chinese martial arts style and claim to teach people combat, and talk about combat in every video that he posts, to do so poorly against a student from another school? Not against a professional fighter or someone of a high level, but it's just some random student. And yet still goes around teaching people how to fight. And how do students still willing to learn from someone who literally has no accomplishment when it comes to fighting? Of course, I'm not looking down on him simply because he lost the fight. Everyone will lose fight as long as you fight. What I don't like is how he handles the whole situation and how he portrays himself. It's perfectly normal for a martial art practitioner to not be that good at fighting, so long as he is honest about what he can or cannot do. If someone like him just says he's done Xingyi for decades, he teaches Xingyi, he's not that good at fighting, but he can teach you the other stuff involving the style, that's perfectly fine. Or in my case, I often tell my student, I can teach you how to fight and how to self-defend, but I can't teach you to be a professional level fighter. I can teach you as far as my capability goes. I've beaten a lot of traditional Chinese martial art practitioners in China, so I'm fairly confident on my skills in that group of people, but I've lost every time to a professional fighter, therefore my level is not that good. So I make these things clear before I take on a student if they want to learn how to fight. And I believe as long as you make the parameters clear, that's perfectly fine. Not everyone is a world-class fighter. But when your capability is over here, but you claim something over there, then we have a problem. And no matter how your initial intentions are, I call that a lie. And personally, I don't like people that lies, especially when it comes to Chinese martial art. So even though I have nothing against him personally, I dislike him because of the lies he spun on the classical text, as well as how he falsely presents himself within the community. And I'm definitely not the only person that feels this way in the Chinese martial art community in China. You just don't know how other people think because A, you don't speak Chinese, B, you don't have access to the community in China, and obviously C, not everyone speaks their mind like me because they don't want to ruin a social bridge that they could benefit on in the potential future. Whereas for me, I don't care all that much about social bridges. It's okay for me to burn a potential bridge in the future. Rather, I want to maintain the integrity and the truth within the Chinese martial art community, which is something that we sorely need if we want any hope for the Chinese martial community to become better rather than degenerating every generation. Alright, so that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that this also put this matter to rest beyond any reason of doubt. If you enjoyed my video, please consider subscribing me on my YouTube channel, and don't forget to give me a thumb up to show that you do enjoy my content. If you can support me on Patreon, that would be greatly appreciated. As always, I'll give a shout out to all my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much for supporting me over the pandemic. And as always, if you've got any questions for current content or suggestions for future content, always feel free to message me and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And even if I don't know the answer to your question, as long as it's martial art related, I'll try my best to find out for you, as I do have extensive connective network when it comes to Chinese martial arts community in China. And once you do support me on Patreon, you have access to a whole array of videos that covers in-depth analysis to various internal martial arts mechanics, especially on the 4 fundamental forces. They are definitely worth checking out if you have interest in understanding the internal martial arts mechanic using laws of physics rather than some woo-woo metaphysical description. Lastly, I'd like to remind everyone that we are still in the pandemic, so keep your social distance, wear your mask, sanitize your hands, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching TriEssence Martial Art channel.